What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Just United. I hope you had a good Christmas and a happy new year. This one's starting with a bang. Ruben Amorim has been sacked by Ineos. He's out of Old Trafford. He's on his way home back to Portugal with his wife and his family. I'm not happy it happened. I'm joined by Peter. I'm joined by Jermaine. How are you guys feeling about this?
Big news, man. Honestly, I weren't expecting to wake up here. It definitely took a couple of moments to kind of clear my head and make sure that it wasn't fake news. But yeah, overall, I think we're all in agreement that is a pretty poor decision, right?
Yeah, I think it's a poor decision. I think inevitably, I think it was on the cards. We saw it coming a while back, and I think this goes to show, I think the board wanted something else that the manager couldn't deliver. Whether it was consistency, whether it was a form of identity, or whether it was just like the right man. I don't think he was.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said to you before we went live, there felt like there was a change in energy around Amorim. There was the last couple of press conferences, he seemed a little bit more cagey. Like, I know he is really honest and he does say things, but it just felt like he that was on the defensive, or he felt like he was kind of fighting a little bit more than usual. Even on the bench, on the touchline against Leeds, he looked defeated, man. And then that post interview, I think that was just a nail in the coffin. I remember when he came out and said it almost felt like he was speaking in code. And obviously now what's happened since.
You hear things, obviously leading up to this moment. You hear, oh, he's not happy with Jason Wilcox. There's frustration, there's tension between them. And from any manager's point of view, if that kind of thing's coming out to the media before you've even given your press conference, and, before that it was his team leak of, he's going to go to a back four, you haven't put it out, then it kind of drives that negativity and that environment in and around the place. And, we know that he's been trying to fight that. He's got rid of the bad eggs in the team, the likes of like Rashford, Garnacho, and he's trying to change the environment. And, I agree with what you're saying. I feel like after that Wolves game and then leading up to it again after the Leeds game, he's kind of snapped and he's kind of had enough. And yeah, I don't know what's gone on behind the scene. Nobody's ever going to know what's been said and what hasn't been said. But from my point of view, and I'm sure all of you guys out there can agree, I don't think that anybody expected it to happen, so suddenly, like a day or two before the Burnley game as well. We're expecting to have a press conference from Ruben and see, are we going to see Bruno? Are we going to see Mount back in the team? We're unbeaten. We're starting to, he's starting to adapt. There's been a bit of flexibility in his team. And, it's just come out of nowhere. But I want to go back to the start for Ruben Amorim. What did you think when you saw, him coming into this team, and, what did you feel when you saw Ruben Amorim?
Well, I think like everyone else saw his Sporting Lisbon team beat City 4-1, and instantly started getting excited, thinking, yeah, we're gonna win the league. Like it seemed there was.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but listen,
I wouldn't go that far.
We're United fans. We're at this moment in time, we are just dreamers. There's nothing else.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was just a bit. It was a bit exciting because, it was a new manager. Like, I don't think a lot of players or a lot of people really knew what he was all about. We heard his story. We heard what he did at Sporting Lisbon and how he took a team from where they were having fans break into the training ground and protest, to actually now taking them to not only winning the Liga Portugal, but also taking them into the Champions League as well and beating teams like Man City. So we were excited. We saw a manager that on paper looked like he could galvanise a team. He could take a team and he could make them play actual good attacking transition football. I don't know what's happened. He's come into the team, and again, I was one of the biggest advocates of saying give him literally the rest of season.
Do you think we were catfished?
No.
With, he come in with his Moncler jacket, he's running the place, and, he had a smile on. Do you think we were catfished?
I think he came in, and the one thing I'll always say about him, he kept it 100 from day one.
He was transparent.
Honest. He told people that, listen, I wanted to actually come in the summer.
I believe from my point of view anyway, and, my own opinion, I felt that this was going to be the start of something special because, like you said, he beat Pep in the Champions League. You know, we got a ball playing keeper in Onana, and I thought, you know, this was gonna be like we were linked with Gyökeres.
Yeah.
Remember, we didn't have the striker that we wanted. We thought Agate as well. We thought, you know, he's gonna bring some players from Sporting, like managers often do, like Ten Hag when he came in, had his players come through the door.
Initially, when I heard about him, you know, he's one of the smartest, youngest prospects of managers of his ilk.
And Man City wanted him.
Man City wanted
Man
him,
City
exactly.
wanted him.
And I thought, wow, this isn't just Man United, you know, picking a name out of the hat on a whim. This is like some strategic performance.
This was Ineos.
Driven.
This is Ineos.
Yeah, data collection on, you know, the up and coming managers, and we're picking the cream of the crop. And for some reason, I think part of it's naivety on his behalf. I think part of it's his stubbornness.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is the situation with the injuries and this most recent AFCON situation where we're lacking players. And at the start of the season, you know, this new season, I thought, you know, I heard Radcliffe say, you know, we're going to give him 3 years and we're behind him. So for him to get sacked right now, it's a bit of a mind
It
scratcher.
came out of nowhere. I think a lot of fans are confused.
But so, you know, we touched on it a little bit with him getting rid of players and changing the environment. At the very beginning, we've seen, I think it's 10 managers, including interims that we've had, you know, after post Fergie. And we've seen how hard it is for a manager to come in and change certain things, but straight away things were happening. You know, not only the manager, the whole team, you know, it seemed like everybody was cohesive.
It looked like the board had his back. And that's one thing that, as United fans, I don't think the board have had their managers' backs historically. This is the first time I can remember post Fergie where we were actually thinking, you know what? No, this board have got his back. They've openly come out and said numerous times, he's our manager going forward. We're going to stick by him.
Long-term project.
We talk about United fans and our problems that
Even
we had
when
with
results weren't going
exactly. But you're talking about the problems we had with like the likes of, you know, your Garnachos, your Jadon Sanchos, your Rashfords. Amorim came in and said, "Yeah, I want to get rid of them." What happened? United got rid of them in January as well. They sent Rashford out on loan. They sent Sancho out on loan. They sold Garnacho in the summer, and then they got Anthony as well. And it looked like they were like all in on Ruben Amorim. And as a United fan, listen, the results weren't great, and especially last season, we finished 15th. They weren't great. We had some highlights, but we could see that actually they are backing it, and that gives us as fans a bit of stability as well, knowing that, you know what, it's not going to be the same old cycle of recycling or churning managers, having a couple of good seasons and then replacing and starting from a bottom. And then out of nowhere, United just think, you know what, no, let's return back to form. Let's do exactly what we do as a board. Let's completely change the system. Let's, break this manager up. Let's break up the coaching staff. Let's start an interim again. And it just feels like exactly the same as last season, where I think all United fans accepted that season was going to be a write-off. Yeah, we didn't expect to finish 15th, but we were just hoping maybe we could do something in Europa. It's the same again.
And after spending 200 million on these players bringing in, you think, there's going to be some kind of direction, some kind of forward thinking.
Just to write off another season?
It doesn't make any sense.
Especially we're 4 points, 5 points off top 4. And now we're bringing in Darren Fletcher. Listen, nothing against Darren Fletcher, but listen, he's not an experienced manager in that sense. And now we're looking towards him to steady the ship, a ship that hasn't been able to be steadied by some of the best managers football's ever seen. So, it's just an absolute joke. So, I want to say a lot more, but I'm trying to hold my tongue and not get myself cancelled.
So if we look at the timeline now of Ruben Amorim's reign as manager, where would you pin it to? Where would you go back to? That was the moment where you thought, okay, this is where, it doesn't look good for him.
For me, where it turned is this last recent run of form. The loss against Everton was really hard to stomach, but that 1-1 draw against Wolves, it was a culmination of those previous kind of results that hadn't gone our way, whereby we dropped points against teams we shouldn't have. But then the Amorim substitutions were just questionable. And again, I think at Wolves, I was at the match. I saw it. We're chasing a game against a team that hasn't got a win. I know they've got one now, but at the time they only had 2 points. They're nervous, they're shaky, they haven't got confidence that they can keep it. You've got a striker on the bench in Obi. You take Xerxes off, who is the only attacking player that you've got that has some level of experience. You put on a young lad who's not the same kind of profile. So now all of a sudden you have nothing going forward. And then even when you're chasing a goal, you don't even throw an extra man as a forward up top. I think his substitutions is what kind of, that's what made me think, you know what, I think the board are really looking into this a bit more. And his unwillingness to change.
Off the back of that, he did change.
Yep.
And, you know, we saw that he went to a back four. We saw that he did adapt. We saw that, you know, the game that he did go to a back four.
But that was before.
But like the game that we saw that he could adapt, and whether it was because of injuries or because he had to, because he lost players, we saw that, you know, he's willing to do it. And then, you know, we get these reports before the game and after the game. He's even said, how do you guys kind of know? You guys are very smart. Like, you know, he's already picking up the media and saying, you know, you guys already know what I'm going to do, sort of thing. And for me, in those games, every moment that we've had to, you know, kind of climb the table, we fell short every time. And going back to that Everton game,
10 men.
People can say 10 men and we're playing against Everton. But that game for me, I think the red card killed it, because they had to sit in and we had to break them down. And we've seen from going 15th last season, we've seen this team struggles to break teams down. And, you know, when players aren't in form or they aren't playing well and you're trying to get new players into the team, like your Sesco's, and, you know, playing the way you are with the back three, and, you know, again, you're getting injuries to like the likes of De Ligt and Mount at a key moment. It kind of messes up the fluidity of the team. And when you start to get some rhythm, and we have been unbeaten in that run as well. Yes, we haven't won every game, but there's I think some 496 minutes in a game where we've been leading. And, you know, it hasn't been in the first half, which we've seen from this team. We've took the game to a level where we're happy, we're winning. And then we've seen again, like we saw under Ollie, like we saw under Moyes. Yes, they're different players, but there's something about the mentality.
It's our inability to kill a game.
And that game for me was, the Everton game for me was the biggest one, because when I seen the team go down to 10 men, they fell flat of ideas. And it was like...
And they kept the back three.
And they couldn't think. They could not think. The simplest way to deal with that, get the ball to your open man and find the pocket of space. And they just didn't have no right way around it.
Even yet, just put a cross in the box. I think just screaming at the TV so many times.
For me,
just put a ball in there.
I think that for me, the most sort of pivotal game for me was that Carabao Cup tie against Grimsby, when we got giant slayed against a tier 4 team. So for me, then it's not about managing, you know, expectations. It's about managing your exit. You know, how can we lose against a tier 4 team? Grimsby's whole squad is probably worth.
I think that was a one-off though, from a low, but like from like a bigger perspective.
Losing
I think
at
that was
no, but you know what, dude? If you think about it, we've been turned over by a lot of smaller teams. Like you think about, like Solskjaer got knocked out by Derby, I think.
Yeah,
I think Van Gaal got knocked out by MK Dons. Yeah, Grimsby. Don't get me wrong. Listen, not covering for it at all, but I think that's just something that United have always had as a problem. And we were one penalty kick away from going through. But I do agree that the banter that we got on that from opposition fans, from the media, who, by the way, it felt like they had something against Amorim from day dot. They were always hunting for him. They were like, honestly, they were like hyenas, just I
think this all stems from last season, because if you look at it, you know, our record that season from Amorim when he come in, we had 12 wins, 10 draws, 16 losses, 46 points. Yeah, we're on 30 right now, so that tells you like where we were at in that season, in 15th place. But the main thing I think that stemmed from that season was the media on his back about his formation. And because the way we conceded goals within the last 15 minutes of games, the way that we sometimes we won a game. I'm not saying we lost every single game, but the way that we lost games in those last 15 minutes, we had 9 losses from winning positions.
Yeah. We just leak goals.
And that's why I come back to, it's a mentality thing. Okay, the ends with the manager. Completely, it's always going to be him who takes the blame. But at the end of the day, it's coming back to player FC again because, you know, and I know it's not the exact same squad, it's a completely different squad. But there's been, you know, we signed Cunha, we've signed Mbeumo, we signed Sesko, we signed Dorgu. Who else have we signed? We signed Mount. We signed
Diego
Lemens.
Leon.
We saw Mason Mount, and you know all these new players that have come into the team. Their mentality is a little bit different, but we've seen now with the players that have been there through Ollie, your Luke Shaws, your Brunos,
Your Harry
even
Maguires.
you know your Harry Maguires. We've seen the mentality kind of ingrained on them as well, and it's like how do they fight it? And you know the good players will. You and Bemos will, your Amads will, your Cunhas will, because they've got that mentality to hold the shirt and take it for what it is and be able to hold their head high and be able to fight that, you know, intensity from the media and the way that we lose in games.
You know, like I know you mentioned like obviously the buck falls with the manager and things like that, but why don't we as fans, why don't we question the board more? Like obviously everything comes down on the fans, and they're obviously, I'm not saying the fans like the board because they don't, but you know, you got to look at people like your Wilcoxes and the Baradas. Like Dan Ashworth was sacked. I think he was on record, or it was heavily reported that he was the one that opposed the
Ruben
bringing
Amorim.
in Ruben Amorim. And don't get me wrong, I think he wanted to bring in, you know, a Graham Potter or Southgate. Which don't get me wrong, listen, I would be heavily against. I'm actually still terrified they might get him as an interim, but like, why are we not looking back on our Barada and saying, listen, at the end of the day, you guys have backed Ruben Amorim. You said he was the guy in charge. You know, Ratcliffe has come out and said, you know what, we're going to give him 3 years. You've talked about this project that you've got going on. It's quite clear that, like, you know, you weren't looking to spend money and back him in January. And obviously, I think for any manager, if you're now coming out at the very start of a January transfer window and the first thing you're saying in a press conference is, we're not having discussions about any signs in January, I think that's a killing blow for any manager.
Stamming.
So that shows a complete lack of confidence. And what's that going to feed through the rest of the team? You get me?
That nicely takes me on to my next point. Why is it happening? Why has Ruben Amorim been sacked 19 games into the season? He hasn't had a full season as manager. You tell me from your own point of view, Jermaine, why has Ruben been sacked?
I think there's a number of things. I think United as a board, I think they selected a man that felt that could do a job for him. But I think Ruben had his own agenda. And I think he was a bit naive into thinking that he can't change his principles because he had to stick to them. And I think that was his downfall all over, really, overall. I think, you know, when the going got tough, I don't think he was able to adapt well enough and be flexible enough and make the decisive changes that needed to be made. And sometimes when we you know, we're losing, he's going to set up more. He's going to be, you know, keep the same, you know, back five rather than throw every man in their kitchen sink at, you know, the opposition's.
Okay, so on that point that you've just said there, you know, we've seen in so many games this season, when we are losing a game or we are drawing a game towards the end of the game, what is the substitution that he makes?
The man's going to roll off.
I think everyone's been questioning Amorim's substitutions.
What is the substitution that he would make more often than not?
Oh, man.
He'd change a defender, wouldn't he?
He's going to change someone in defence. Like, what is the point?
And until Harry Maguire obviously was injured this season.
What is the
Last
point?
season, that used to be his sub and his go-to. Whack Harry Maguire up top and see if he can win you the game. And, you know, from what you're saying there, you know, he wasn't able to manage the game and see the results out. And obviously, I've just said there is because obviously 9 times out of 10 he'd make substitutions, and you know you'd be thinking to yourself, why are you bringing a defender
They're the
on
wrong
when we
strategic
can go?
substitution rather than bringing someone into the attack who, you know, can really inject some pace or some sort of intensity into United's forward line. He wants to change the back and thinking this is the time you want to kill the game or go for the kill.
It's very, I think, the one thing that really, really hurt a lot of United fans is, listen, not to be that guy that's always living in the past, but, you know, our club is based on a legacy of being risky attacking football. Like, you know, I think all of us as United fans would rather lose.
Through and through all the way.
We'd rather lose, like, you know, 3-1 than lose 1-0. You get me? Like,
in the last minutes of the game.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we'd rather do everything we can to throw people forward. Like, there's been times that I've seen United teams of old have 2 centre-backs.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody else has been on
Bumming
the pitch.
forward, yeah.
And, like, it just felt like Amorim's substitutions, they almost felt like reactionary. But they almost felt like, what are you doing? Kind of, you've got young players on the bench. United is known for young players that have come on and changed the scene. Like, you talk about Martial coming on the bench, winning a game. You talk about Rashford, coming off and making an impact as a substitute, as a new young player. You've got talented youngsters on your bench like Shea Lacey or Obi that are attackers, Bendito Matato. And no, we're chasing the game. How about we just throw Lenny Yoro on because he can fill in that midfield
and with
gap.
that, we became too predictable.
Yeah.
So, and sorry, just touching on that as well. Substitutions, and you're talking about key players and young players. One of those players this season, who I think we can all agree on, has been mistreated, is Kobe Mainoo.
Yeah, 100%.
And before we get into talking about Ruben Amorim's record as manager and the amount of losses and wins and draws that he had, I feel like that has kind of impacted him negatively as well, because Ten Hag was here, and the figures themselves, they don't support what everybody's saying. But in terms of like the Kobe Mainoo situation specifically, the figures themselves, Ruben Amorim has given the most time to young players, maybe not out of choice, but out of having to do it, a necessity to do it. He's given the most minutes to the young players this season over any ex-Manchester United manager. But specifically Kobe Mainoo, I think for me, that has affected him being able to make effective decisions in his substitutions, because he hasn't had it in his mind to rely on these young players.
Yep.
Like he'd rather play Agate in the team.
Yeah.
And he's been dog shit. He's been dog shit. Let's be real. He's been on the pitch, and it's hard for players to come on in a game when you're losing or you're drawing to get a hold of the game and do that. But who's gonna do that in a game? A young player is gonna do that in a game, whether it's Colby, whether it's Shea Lacey, with Jack Fletcher. They're gonna be fearless into getting that team and take their chance. The board's looking at it. This is what Manchester United stands for. This is our history. This is our legacy. He's been sacked. The worst manager in Premier League history for Manchester United, not only before his record of losses, but for the records that he's broken to get here.
Yeah.
And, it's coming in mid-season, last season, and now he hasn't had a full season again. But it's for the records he's broken along the way. And we all looked at each other, and we spoke about it in the previews going up to games and just chatting to each other on WhatsApp, where is he going to keep the record of bringing the academy players through in the team? And, there's been murmurings. The board have told him that he has to keep that going. Yeah. And now AFCON's come. You look at our bench the last game. Who did we have on the bench to make a difference? There was nobody there.
Yeah, we've got no doubt. I think the Mainoo thing, I think that caused the biggest divide of all between him and the United fans. Because you even saw it. Like, you go to games. We've all gone to games, right? Like, I do, like, listen, the one thing I'm going to say is, when you have Casemiro, who's having a really, really good season in terms of from what he came from last season to this, you got Bruno Fernandes, who is our captain, and, we could use him right now. He was never going to make it into those teams with those two. He was very underused, but you see it now. Every time he comes on, you see how much the fans applaud Kobe Mainoo. That's it's almost like the fans are sending a message to the manager themselves, saying,
"Free
we're
Kobe
cheering
Mainoo.
our boy, free Kobe Mainoo." His brother wore the t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
All of this stuff is going on, and it's not helping the situation. And then on top of that, I think Ruben Amorim was really, really stubborn. I think one of his undoings, I don't believe he should have been sacked. I think we should have kept hold of it. I think it's actually to United's detriment that we're getting rid of him now. But one thing I will say,
just when he's starting to change,
his stubbornness was his issue. Because look, we talk about the change. He went to a back four. Everyone started celebrating. You had Gary Neville going on podcasts saying, "Oh, United look really, really good. This is the best I've seen United play for a while." I agree. When we played against Bournemouth, we played against Aston Villa. Yeah, we lost the Villa game. We drew the Bournemouth game. But in terms of football, it was the best we played. But then you kind of then walk into Wolves, for instance, and you think, yeah, we're up for it. He goes back to a back three, and it just felt
It's
like
too
he
predictable.
was. No, but it felt like almost everyone else was telling him you should play a back four, and he was saying for ages, even last season, no, I have my system. I'm going to play my system. This is what I've been brought in to do. He changed to a back four, and it's almost like the media had this little story or campaign of "I told you so, I told you so," and then he went, no, actually, I'm going to go back to the back
Yeah,
four.
yeah.
I'm going to go back to the back five to prove a point. I think the stubbornness stayed with Manu. I think not playing Manu as much as he could have, that came from stubbornness because he believed he wasn't right for that system. But yet still said Kobe Manu is the future of this club. Like, there is a lot of question marks against Ruben Amorim. There's a lot of question marks about the way he went about things. But ultimately speaking, I don't think he should have been sacked.
Let's take a deeper look at his record then, because we've as you guys can see on screen now, it's not the best record. He's the worst. He's got the worst win percentage out of any Manchester United manager. Ollie, Ten Hag, Mourinho, Moyes, even, and there's even managers there which you'd expect him to be better than with the squad that he's got.
Yeah.
Moyes had an aging squad. You can say Mourinho had a decent squad, so his win percentage is rightly so where it is. Won a couple of trophies as well. And then you got Van Gaal, his squad as well, again, in between of getting the players that he wanted. Again, he comes out and says that he didn't get all the players that he wanted either. But with the squad that he had, and again, came in mid-season, hasn't had a full season, so it's going to be low.
Yeah.
Would you have expected him to win more games than he has?
Oh, 100%. And the thing is, like, looking at the statistics, if you look, 63 games, 24 wins, 18 draws.
21 losses.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at, like, a lot of that, we can all think of some of the draws. Like, you talk about West Ham, you talk about Bournemouth, you talk about kind of teams like that.
The Forest game?
Forest, exactly. Like, these are matches that we should be winning. And so if you do win those games, like, it could be a completely different story.
Can you remember a couple of weeks ago where we were chatting and we were saying if we had won those games, we'd be top of the league?
Yeah.
10 points. 10 points dropped from those games. And, it's crazy now to think a couple of weeks later, we're doing a video and he's been sacked.
Well, he wouldn't. Listen, I heard a statistic today. I think the last two manager of the months have been Amorim and Maresca. And then 2 months later, they're both gone. So, like, it just... the way stuff changes in football is unbelievable. Like, a couple of months ago, we were 4 games on the trot. And we were all saying, "Oh, that lad's going to get his haircut."
But
we were 3 on the trot. Yeah,
but for me, again, it goes back to consistency. And at one point, we were winning games. And then it's like we're dropping 18 points from winning positions. Yeah, you can't do that. As a Premier League manager, you can't do that.
Okay, so you just touched on it there. We're gonna go to the other side of it now. What was improving under Ruben Amorim? Because there was improvement, whether people like to admit it or not. We are going to be look at both sides. What was improving under Ruben Amorim from your perspective? When we came into this season, and I think we played 10 games, the metrics all showed improvement. Maybe not every single metric that you would want from a team, but like XG, chances created.
Yep.
Those metrics were there for everybody to see. Set pieces. We scored the most set pieces other than Arsenal this season.
Yeah.
That's improved.
Average possession rolls from up to 54%. And you can see this throughout the
I
team.
think when we had a full team, just the general eye test, we did look like a better team in comparison to next year. I do think he is a victim of AFCON. He is a victim to injuries.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day,
Do you not think the board should have stuck with him then?
I 100% agree the board should have stuck with him. But
Quickly, were you Ruben out?
Not before Christmas.
Not before Christmas. How about you?
I wasn't Ruben. I think I was close to dipping my toe in the water. I think I told you, but no, I still think we should have given him a full season.
Okay, so
should have given him
all of us agree that Ruben should not have been sacked
I
right
agree.
now.
Yeah.
Listen, regardless of all his faults, because it has been quite negative as well. It's a negative day. But I think we're all in agreement that, listen, he also had to manage and overcome a lot of stuff within, 13 months he's been in the club? He's probably had to overcome the most that any other new manager coming in has had to kind of
Because-
a new take. You're talking about
Board
a
of
new
director.
takeover that have come in, like handling all of
Sport
that.
director.
Sporting directors
New stadium,
coming in,
new
new stadium,
training
talk.
ground.
Then also bringing in the new players. Then you have your Rashford issues, your Garnacho issues, Sancho, and on top of that, the media, everything going.
Garnacho
around him.
again, by the way, you're a dickhead, fam. You're an actual dickhead. You like to post of Ruben Amorim sacking. And yeah, it is a little bit funny because he's gonna do that and he knows people are looking for it.
His own
But-
manager got sacked, so
Exactly,
he should
and
look
you know
at
what?
himself.
Now he might be off, but I just want to say you're a dickhead, and you deserve what you got to be out the door.
Like, listen, here's the thing what's going to really annoy me now is that this Manchester United are going to profit from this. The company are going to profit from it, not the club, because Man United.
I don't know, they paid quite a lot out to these managers in the sackings,
Don't get me wrong. Here's what I'm saying to you: like the company, like Man United ain't a club anymore; they're a business.
Yeah.
Look at this. Amorim's been sacked, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, instead of all of the fans getting together, if we unionize, we could remove the Glazers. No, we're too busy arguing amongst ourselves who are Amorim in, who are Amorim out, who one is a new manager. All this is leading to, from a media perspective, is a circus surrounding Manchester United. But
It
what
starts
does that
again.
mean?
The cycle
What does that
starts
mean for
again.
United, though? Clicks, news stories, posts.
The cycle
public
starts
eye,
again, and
gossip. On top of that, share prices now. New manager
and that's
coming in.
that's why I
gonna
wanted
be an
that's
issue,
why I
like-
wanted to talk about what was improving because
company, man.
everything that we saw, like I said, if we won those games, we'd be top of the league. And the start of the season, the game against Arsenal, even though we lost that game, there was optimism.
We were clear. Like,
Everybody was happy with what was happening. Ahmad was playing well. With that whole right hand side with Yoro, Ahmad, and Wemo, that whole connection, everything was going good. We had Cunha, now he's playing himself into some form. We had Mason Mount back in the team before he got injured, playing well. Bruno even, he was starting to find some form again.
But I mean, without AFCON and injuries, I don't think we're in this situation.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think we're talking about Amorim the same
and I
way.
think that's why, I wanted to talk about it because not only did he have this whole media circus and having to do interviews every single day with different outlets, Sky Sports, Manchester United even as well. And every other day it seemed like, for example, Arne Slot, yes, he's won the Premier League, but I don't see people going to his door or going to Anfield every day asking for an interview. Why aren't you changing your system? What's gone wrong? What's going on with Mo Salah? The whole Mo Salah thing, by the way, that was brushed under the carpet.
I'm not being funny, but United, up with Real Madrid, are the two biggest clubs in the
But
world.
like
and they
you
will
look,
get that
you look
attention.
at it. You look at it. It's still media clicks, but that whole Mo Salah situation, this guy literally done a Ronaldo-esque situation with Ten Hag. Came out, said the problem with the club. They want to get me out, and it was brushed under the carpet. I don't remember it being
the Ronaldo situation was way bigger news story. You had Jamie Carragher every week saying it's a disgrace, and the club should remove Ten Hag. And then with Mo Salah, you see him just openly
and even he did press him a little bit. Jamie Carragher did press Mo Salah a little bit, but he only did that because he knew he had to do it. But yeah, exactly.
You see the video. Whenever I have a question him on the pitch.
Yeah.
Last week he said his legs had gone.
Yeah, exactly. He could have got him straight clean with that one. But I want to talk positive for a second about Ruben Amorim because it is a poor day to be a Man United fan.
I think honestly speaking, I
want to go back to just quickly. I want to go back to a couple of games for me, which I saw what Ruben was about.
Progress.
The Liverpool game, Ahmad scoring against Man City, that game. There were so many different moments. Against the big teams under Ruben Amorim, we looked like we could go toe-to-toe and we can beat them, which we did on a few occasions. Only us, and I think it was Liverpool at Anfield.
3-3.
Only us and Leeds. Like how people say that there was no improvement and everything was doom and gloom under Ruben Amorim. Right now, all of this media circus is just gonna restart the cycle and it's gonna put everything back to what it was and what United fans have been suffering with for the last 20 years because the improvements now, they go away because his coaching setup's gone. What was improving is going to go, because they're clearly going to go for a manager who's playing a different system. And then what happens to the players that have been brought in to play this system? Okay, there's certain players that are in a category which have been brought in, you know, for the model of the club and what suit the club and how Man United as a history used to play. Your Cunhas and your Mbeumo's, your Sesco's even. But
I think on Burma and Ahmad, that's not an issue now, because they were set up perfectly as that right wing / wing back, and they're number 10 and then a forward.
I don't think that's going to change, because I think United are operating under a new model now. That's why they brought in this sporting director Jason Wilcox, because they want to be able to, you know, give the manager a team. So whoever comes in, they're gonna have a clear identity and a clear.
But then answer me this question: how do you fit all of them into a team without using an Amorim system? I think so. Let's look at your strikers. You've got Mbeumo, Cunha. Sorry, attackers: Mbeumo, Cunha, Ahmad, Fernandez, Mount. Who else? Sesko. Like, who are you picking?
You're still going to need other players to come in and, you know, bolster United. But the whole point of having that Jason Wilcox is whoever comes in is going to be able to have to utilize these players regardless of their philosophy.
Would they? But my point being is, these players obviously, they were great players, and I do think that they can adapt to any philosophy. But the kind of way they were brought in and the way they were set up under an Amorim system was to work under the dual number 10 positions. Now, obviously, we've all heard the news that Fletcher's taken over. Fletcher he's
going to go old school. He's going to 4-3-3. Yeah.
How do you use that without pushing people into positions that they don't want to play? Like, how do you shoehorn, unless you're putting a Burma up top, which I don't think he's an out-and-out striker at all. How do you shoehorn him and Ahmad in a team?
Burma could be a false nine, or it could be a winger.
I think
you're still dropping someone out of that
the whole thing now is going to be, you know, who do they bring in? How does that manager change to what they want? And which is why my next point that I want to talk about is the power and control, because that for me was the reason why all of this has happened. You know, there's an image on screen now which you guys can see. One is the quote after the game against Leeds, and Ruben's come in and said that I'm here to be a manager, not a coach of Manchester United. And then the second image that you can see there is Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe in the stands. I don't think it wasn't the Leeds game, but it was one of the games in this season where they're having, you know, looked like they were having an argument with each other. And for me, this right now, this whole situation has come about to do with power and control, because Ruben's come out and basically said, back me or I'm gone. And they've said, see you later. And
it did feel like a bit of an ultimatum.
It's just, you know, it's so disappointing to see, because he's been told, we're going for Semenyo. You got 65 million. Here's 65 million. We're going to go in for him. We're opening talks. We're talking to him. Semenyo said, nah, I'm going to Man City. Where's the 65 million gone? Because he's only said this. He's only took shots at the board to say, you know, the funds were there. And now, all of a sudden, there's no discussion at all for January transfer window incomings. And he took shots at the board to say everybody needs to do their job and I'll do mine. And I'm here for 18 months. And after that, we move on.
I read it differently. I do agree with what you're saying, but I read it to the point when he said that quote, it was almost like he was challenging them to say, listen, almost like, and I don't know how true this is, but almost like he was given assurances that he would have a certain level of control, specifically nothing to do with the new stadium, but specifically about actually the caliber, the types, the standards, the quality of players that he can bring in. And he would have the control, and he would have the backing
to say yes
of the team behind him. He would have the control. I think he learned, and maybe he learned it in this January window, although there's a lot of question marks about actually, did he really want Sesko? Did he want Watkins? Was he overruled? I think he learned that he was not the deciding vote.
Yeah.
And I think that's where things started to run a little bit differently. So I think when he actually said, I'm the manager, not the head coach.
Yeah.
I think it was almost like a little bit of a dig at the board to say, listen, this is what I was brought in to do. This is what I'm doing. So I'm going to do it for 18 months and then I'm gone. But I'm not the head coach in the sense of I'm not just going to shut up and just coach my players.
Yes, man. I'm not.
From his point of view, after the conversations, after how the season's going, after losing the players for AFCON, after getting injuries to 2 or 3 of his main players in Mount, Bruno, and De Ligt, he's gone to them and said, okay, that's 65 million for Semenyo. Who are we going to get?
Yeah,
and they've come back and said, we're going to maybe try do a loan. We're going to try maybe look at this player.
No value
but there's not going to be any major incomings until the summer.
Yeah.
Now, you tell me, okay, we've only got a couple of games, 2 weeks maybe until that's if, the players that have gone to AFCON don't get to the final until the mid-January is when they're expected to come back around the 22nd, 14th to the 22nd is that window. So if they've said to him now, we're not going to bring any in, what do you do as a manager? You've got to call them out. The managers who know what it takes to win a league, to win a trophy, to implement their philosophy in the team, they're going to want somebody to come in and help them, whether that's, a stopgap or somebody who can, like a João Gomez from a Wolves or, I think, them kind of players.
Your expert elite managers know their squads and know its limitations. And I think that...
but that's what I'm saying. So what do you do as a manager then in that situation?
I mean, if
you do what Ruben Amorim's done?
If the board ain't backing you, you got to call them out. You got to say, look, I can only take this team so far.
So do you think he's wrong in what he's done?
No, I don't think he's wrong.
But also,
I'm just asking the question.
I think it's coming for a while, so I don't think he, and Amorim in a better way, like, on a better run of games, he doesn't say that.
Yeah.
But on a bad run of games, where, let's be honest, he's the one that's in the direct line of fire. Forget players who aren't performing well. He's the guy that everyone is gunning for. And listen, it doesn't matter.
Do you agree with it then?
Yeah, I do, because listen, the one thing I will always say about Amorim is he kept it real.
100%.
He was honest. I actually, out of all the managers we've had since probably Mourinho, I enjoyed listening to his press conferences the most because it actually made me feel like he was being actually honest about what's going on in the background. Yeah. So when he's coming out and saying that, bear in mind, we all know how charismatic and how jokey he can be. It's clear that something's happened, and obviously the media getting on his back have probably got to him. Something's happened in the background, and he's having to say, listen, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change anything about myself. This is kind of what's going on, as much as he can say it.
I think I'd like to reiterate what you're saying, Pete. I think, for me, I feel like he doesn't feel like he has the autonomy to make the decisions he needs to make.
Yep.
I don't feel like he has the backative that was promised to him, and I feel that's one of his grievances, and I feel that ultimately he's come to an end now where he's thinking, you know what, I'm only here for another 18 months. I'm not going to get what I need to get. I'm just going to take this team to where I can take him with its limitations.
He almost started to sound like Ralph Rangnick towards the end.
Yeah.
Actually, I will go back. I did really enjoy Ralph Rangnick's interviews as well. But like in the sense of like, Rangnick, just before he was about to remove, he was like, this team needs open heart surgery and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it almost felt like Amorim was kind of like calling out in a similar sense.
All managers of Manchester United, bar David Moyes because he got sacked, because they wanted to bring in Van Gaal, sorry. They wanted to bring in Van Gaal. Bar David Moyes, which I believe he had no complaints because he knew he was doing a crap job.
But in hindsight though, you'd give Moyes time considering how the rest of the managers are. So I just think he was just unfortunate.
I don't know if I'd give him time, to be honest, but that's the discussion for another day. But like, what happens next with Manchester United and what happens for this club going forward? Because I'm going to show this image now. It's probably not what everybody's expecting. Ruben Amorim leaving his house today with his wife, shades on, big smile. He's back to himself. He's probably thinking, I'm glad that I'm out of there. We're going to speak about what happens next for Manchester United.
I think it's going to be a pivotal time. I think, Ali came in and what did he, in his first 9 games, he won 8, drew 1 and didn't lose any. And I think Fletcher's going to be of the same ilk. He's going to go back to basics. your 4-4-2s, your 4-3-3s, and I think we're going to see a whole, changing sort of dynamic with the team and a real attacking flair again.
Yeah. In terms of this whole people talking about ex-players talking about he knows the club, I think that's a load of bullshit, man. Like, I've supported the club my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean to say that I know the club. Like Darren Fletcher, yeah, he's been in the system. He knows the club from when he was a player and maybe from when it's a team. But at the end of the day, he's not the person that's going out there performing for 90 minutes. Do the actual players know the history of the
Yeah,
club?
but
do they understand it? How is
Hit
he
the
gonna-
nail on the head.
How is he
Hit the nail on the head.
But the difference is he would have relationships with these players. So
Well,
he,
I think Amorim never had a problem. I think the players, for what you can say, I think the players are on side.
Like for a man like Kobe Mainu now, who's been
Yeah.
sitting on the side now, he probably would have gone to Fletcher.
He's running back into
He
Carrington.
probably would have been going to Fletcher and saying,
He's gonna be fit now, watch.
Yeah.
What can I do to get in the team?
Absolutely.
What am I gonna do?
There'll be players in there
Absolutely.
who are glad to see the back of Ruben Amorim. One, because they've struggled to adapt to his system. That's the bottom line. Not everybody's adapted in the way that we thought that they would, being professional footballers. And you've seen, when we have had a full fit squad, we are a different team and we do play well, but the players now have got a choice to make because you've got Darren Fletcher coming in. He's gonna, whether they bring a manager in because, for example, if there's rumors of Slot getting sacked and you need to make a move for a Maresca or, Oliver Glasner, Glasner, sorry. Unai Emery, whether they have to now think Maresca's been sacked, Chelsea looking for a coach, Liverpool be looking for a coach. It's coming to the same situation again. Roll it back 15, 20 years where Fergie left, where, and there's a pool of managers that we could go after. It's coming back to that situation again where who do you go for and who's the best one? In my opinion, it has to be Prem proven. Just because, not just for the history of Manchester United,
different beast.
Just for the league itself,
different beast.
has to be Prem proven. But from now until the end of the season, what happens next? Give me two things which you think needs to happen next, Peter.
Need to happen or what I think will happen?
No, need to happen next.
So what I think needs to happen next is they cannot rush the next managerial decision. They've done that last season. They went all in, like I said, Amorim wanted to come this summer. They went, no, it's now or never. So they need to make sure
rushed into that
but
decision.
the thing is, here's the thing. They need to hold their nerve because I do get it. Liverpool might be after a new coach. Chelsea are after a new coach. Here's the one thing I'm going to always say. That Manchester United job is always going to be a favourable job. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually think it's actually probably one of the worst jobs in football because of just based on past experience. But it also has the biggest upside. If you're the first manager to come back and be successful and win, a Premier League or Championship, you instantly become a legend. You instantly, you're immortalized.
You're back in. You're in that pantheon of great legends.
They need to make sure the board they make that decision correctly because they already have lost a lot of favour. Ineos themselves, forget the Glazers, they lost favour as well. Ineos themselves already have lost a lot of favour. They cannot afford to screw this next one up because that's it.
They've sacked who they bought in to replace Ten Hag.
They've not only that, they've sacked their own management structure in terms of Ashwood. Like there's no positives happening within that Ineos board. So that's got to be a problem.
And so you're saying the next manager needs to be the correct one, and it needs to hold. But
they need to hold off until summer. They have to.
So if there's, for example, the names are on the table: Maresca, Iraola, Glasner, Xabi Alonso, Zinedine Zidane, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Those names are on the table now. If Chelsea and Liverpool have both got a coach missing, and they're going for those names on the table, who's your pick out of that?
I mean, I'm picking Unai Emery.
I
think there's two choices. One comes from my heart. One comes purely off my brain. I think if we're looking at Prem proven, basically the most.
Wouldn't give Ollie another chance.
I think Ollie would be. I'd bring him back as an interim. I don't think you could bring him back full time because I still think there's a lot of people that remember the Ollie dark days. I think as an interim, I actually think he'd get us top four because I think he would
go on a 20-game unbeaten run to the end of the season.
But Unai Emery, in terms of the best manager in the Premier League,
look what he's done with Villa.
Yeah, best manager in the Premier League. That's attainable. Like, obviously, taking Pep out of the equation, but also the style of football he plays is so great. You look at like how they almost beat PSG in the Champions League.
The matches are kind of
and
philosophy.
that's a mismatched team, like crazy. You know what I mean? My personal choice, if I could, I don't think they're ever going to go for it, but I'd wait until after the World Cup and I'd bring in Carlo Ancelotti just because I love him. But just seeing the fact that, you know,
Thomas Tuchel's another one as well.
So I think Thomas Tuchel, they'll go for him just because he's also used to and adept to the five at the back.
Don't you think so?
But
so actually, before I move on just to the next point, Jermaine, who would you bring in?
Oh, I was on the
Fence.
board of on the fence. I was talking to Pete offline. I was saying that, you know, I really admire Unai Emery and De Zerbi as well. I think they're fantastic managers, and I think they can do a fantastic job.
Bring Mason Greenwood back with him, yeah.
Listen.
Can you imagine?
No,
I almost got the
can
joke.
you imagine?
I almost got the joke.
all jokes aside, Greenwood is a phenomenal player, and I think his circumstances.
That's the real reason you're saying it.
He's better than Sesko anyway. But I just think managers, Unai Emery, number one, number two, De Zerbi. But I think, you know what? Instead of like bringing in a firefighter that can just do a job for the meantime, we need to bring in a builder, stick with that builder, and make recruitment decisions at the leadership level. Don't have this thing where, you know, the manager's thinking that he can make decisions when he's not going to, and you kind of give him a false narrative.
Do you think managers would be more willing to leave based on what happened last year? Do you think managers would be more attainable to get this January as opposed to in the summer?
To different.
Because a lot of these managers, you got to understand, they've got their own projects.
I think right now,
difficult.
I think right now it could happen just because, you know, like I said, Slot could be gone. Chelsea looking for a new coach, so there is going to be Xabi Alonso. He could be sacked. You know, there is people out there.
Quite fast to report that Fletcher's going to be there until the end of the
season. Yeah, I know, but I think that was just
what will happen. They'll have the three candidates. They'll tap up the best one. Is a bit of backdoor money until,
you know why I got
summer.
Why I'm worried. Should I tell you why I'm worried? From my point of view now, any person looking from outside, do you want to go to Manchester United?
Yeah,
I'm not so sure. You know,
of course, it's the.
Do you know why I'm not so sure? Because however long ago it was, 12 months, 18 months ago, maybe less than 12 months. Ratcliffe came out, said, Ruben Amorim is our man. He's going to get at least 3 years. And, you know, that's what he's going to get. And you look at Arteta and how long he's had. That's why he said, he goes, you look at Arteta and how long he's had. He had a horrid time when he started as manager of Arsenal. For me now, my biggest worry is Tuchel. He's already rejected us before, saying, you know, no, I'm going to go for the England job. I'm going to stay there and take that over. The dream for me would be Zidane.
He has that gravity.
You're just going to gravitate towards him. You're just going to be that person that you want to play for. Yes, I'm playing for Zidane, like they kind of did for Ali, where this is the guy that scored the Champions League final goal, won the treble. You know, that you admire that kind of person in that dressing room.
I think for me and Pete, I think we had a conversation, and I think Unai Emery is probably the best candidate.
Yeah, if we're looking at Prem proven, listen, I can't think of a better manager in the Prem.
But do they go with the likes of Glasner because he plays the 3-4-3 in there in that mold?
But then again, now
you've recruited for that.
You're now the reports are now you're unwilling to adapt from the five at the back. So now are you now going back in to get another manager that specialises in the five at the back? There's a lot of question marks on Ineos and where they go from here. That's what it's going to be a very interesting few weeks to hear the stories and articles that come out, because again, the young up and coming manager experiment failed. Do you go with someone more experienced? Do you still hold fire and believe in what you're doing? This is a big moment for Ineos in terms of their whole ownership structure. This is huge.
One final thing for me to say is I think the board have got to pick a model, protect it, stop changing it every 18 months. Know what it is you want. Know what it is you want to get. And then
I think at the moment,
you with me?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I think the moment that they've chosen to sack Ruben Amorim,
the wrong time.
It's the wrong time from a fan's point of view. But it's interesting to me because it's the exact same time, not in games wise, but points wise, that they sacked Ten Hag.
Yeah.
3 points off top 4. You've literally got half a season now to do something and get to your targets, which I do believe the targets are going to be now. Try and get as far as you can in the FA Cup and try and get into Europe. But from my point of view, and I'm sure every single United fan out there right now is going to be worried, because for me as a manager, you Unai Emery, you're not going to leave Villa. They could be going for the title. If the maddest thing happens, Villa win the title, Unai Emery ain't coming.
But shall I tell you why
Maresca's exactly the same as Ruben Amorim. He's already gone.
Shall I tell you why that money wasn't set aside for him? Probably the writing was already on the wall, and they knew they were going to sack him. So why would you give that money to the manager if you know you're going to sack him?
But the player model, you're not going for who just the manager wants. You know you need a midfielder. Yeah. You know you need at least 2 midfielders. You know you maybe need another striker, seasoned striker.
Maybe they couldn't make that decision right there and then.
But they've got their targets. So for example, if you table the bid now for Adam Water and Elliot Anderson for 65 million. You've tabled it. You've got the money. Why wouldn't you do it? And now, for me, the biggest thing for me, off the back of all of this, there's been improvements under Ruben Amorim. We've seen improvements. Whether they are passing the eye test or their metrics, there has been improvement. And we were improving up to this point.
Yeah.
Right now, you've sacked him. He's gone. Darren Fletcher's there till the end of the season. He's going to go to a completely different shape, play a different formation to what was being taught. And now, any manager that comes in through that door is going to be thinking, right, they've sacked their manager. I've got to take over from my formation might be completely different to what Darren Fletcher's been doing for the last 6 months.
And also, they won't get their players till late as well.
Exactly. And then there's shorter pre-season, no chance. Just because unless we hit our targets and we win an FA Cup or we get Champions League, there's no way that a manager is going to come into this and think, fucking hell, I can turn this around.
So so based on what you've just said then, who do you think is a realistic target that Manchester United, or who do you think the next realistic manager?
I don't think there is a realistic target at the moment.
Or who would you say, based on what you've said, would be the most...
From my own point of view, I don't think you target the manager. I think you've got to target the players.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
What sense?
As
bring the squad in.
Summer transfer window.
No, but
you've got to... So before you get the manager in the door, you've got to... So for example, summer transfer window comes, end of the season comes, you need to get a few players through that door straight away. Elliot Anderson is probably the one. Yeah? In my opinion, that's probably the one that we're going to go for all out. Or belabor. Those 2 players, yeah, are our targets. So if they go now to a manager who they're going to be having a conversation with, they can say, we're having conversations with these players and we're going to bring them in as soon as the window opens, season ends, we're bringing them in. They have to do that. That's the only way you're going to get any of these managers through that door. Right, guys, we're going to do our predictions for the rest of the season. First of all, we're going to pick who the next Manchester United manager will be. Then we're going to pick where Manchester United will finish in the table, specifically by position. And then we're going to pick what players will come in and what players will either leave or be sacked from this team. We'll start with Jermaine.
I think for me, if Fletch can come in, stabilise the team, get the team galvanised behind him, I think we finish top. I think we finish 4th.
Okay.
Players gonna leave? Ooh. Ugate's gotta go. Sorry, Ugarte. Who else do I think's gonna leave? I think who else gonna leave? Malassi's gotta go. I think Joshua Zirkzee gotta go. Sorry, Joshua Zirkzee. And I think that's the board is still out about Sesko. I don't know. Sesko, help you come well in the next couple of games.
Might now new manager bounce.
Who knows?
Do you think the new manager's going to be next season?
I got to go with Emery. I think he's just a tactician. I think he can squeeze the best out of average players, and I think he's done an almighty task at Villa. And I think if he can do that at Villa with the squad that we got,
I agree.
Soon we're going to be getting the good evening memes, mate. Don't
Good
worry.
evening. Okay, so I think we scrape 5th and we get Champions League just because of the
Coefficient.
The coefficient, right? I think let's be hopeful. Scrape 5th.
Okay.
I think a new manager going into next season. I'm gonna go Emery as well, but I also think keep a lookout. I think Xavi. A lot of talk about Xavi even last season, so keep an eye on him.
Interesting.
And players to go and make a bit. I think Casemiro, as much as I would love him to stay, I don't think they'll pay him a salary. I have a sneaky feeling that they're going to cash in on Bruno in the summer as well, man. And then you're going to have Joshua Xerxes he's going to leave. I think Ugarte might stay, man. I think that just for midfield stability and cover, I think they might. Yeah, but I think the big one will be Fernandes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want it, bro. I love Fernandes. I just listen. Ineos fill me with no trust.
I'm gonna go. We finish 6th. I think we finish 6th because we're in touching distance of top 4, and I think new manager, whether that's Darren Fletcher coming in, these players will now they have to show what they're gonna do for this team, and the next person that comes in, if they're not performing and they're doing crap like your Ugarte and your Xerxes, and they're not playing very well, then I think they're going to just be sacked off. The manager that I think is going to come in, for me, it's a toss between Glasner and Emery. Glasner because what he's done at Palace and the stability and structure that he's put in place, and then Emery because of what he's doing with Villa. But my big thing is, as we've talked about this episode, when that person steps through this door, they do not know what they're getting themselves in for. And the pressure to play for Man United, to manage Manchester United, is 2 completely different things for any player coming in and any manager coming in. So I am worried. I'm still worried whether those managers come in. My dream would be Zidane, just because, as we said, the gravitas and, it shuts everything up because you want to play for the guy. You want to listen. You want to hear about his stories of how he won a three-peat with Real Madrid and how he done it and how he can change this player into the best player, learn his techniques or whatever it is. That would be my dream. But I do think it's going to be Prem proven. Yeah. So I do think it will be one of those 2 managers. Players to leave. I think Xerxes got to go. I think Rashford's got to go. I think Bruno's got to go. Ugarte's definitely going to go. See you later, mate. Leave with Ruben tonight. Who else? Who else is there? Luke Shaw's probably going to go. World Cup season comes, and he has a good season, and I think I've had enough of just seeing that because next season he'll be back to himself.
Injured.
Who else is going to go? Anana's going to go. He's going to go. Sign him
Malacia
for free. Malasia's going to go. Said Xerxes. Who else is there? Who else is in the team? Hoyland, that loan deal's gone. I think he's gone. But yeah, I think those are the players that are going to go. I think we'll go for a Baleba, Elliot Anderson, or Adam Wharton. Those are the 3 targets that we're linked with. But we've got to act quick and we've got to, be sharp. That was a very long episode, but that was the Manchester United review of Ruben Amorim being sacked. I, for one, didn't want to see it happen. These guys didn't want to see it happen. Let us know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below and we'll catch you on the next one. Hopefully with a few more good results and a new manager. See you later.
Peace.